Madame la Ministre, dear members of the Parliament, dear colleagues, very good morning to all of you. Many thanks to Mr. Bal once again to invite me to this very important meeting. Dear colleagues, in the next few minutes, I would like to share with you my views about two things. One, the global energy crisis and where we are, and at least two of the, in my view, wrong assumptions about the global energy crisis and its implications. I want to share with you my views on that. And the second, a bit of a thought of Europe this winter and beyond. I am sure as far as Europe is concerned, Mr. Canfin, one of the, perhaps the leader of the European energy and climate issues in the European Parliament, he will also elaborate on these issues. So let me start with the global picture. 24th of February was the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. 1st of March, 1 week, just 1 week later, the International Energy Agency, we came up with a 10-point plan how Europe should take steps to reduce the reliance on Russian gas and to have a comfortable winter. We made some suggestions, but we said, let's be clear. What we are entering is the first global energy crisis. Our world has never, ever witnessed an energy crisis with this depth and with this complexity. And of course, there's a lot of governments, businesses, citizens responded to this crisis in different ways. But there are two thoughts that I wanted to challenge here, which I find wrong and dangerously wrong. I just came from 10 days of a visit first to the United States and Japan. I see that they are also in Europe. The first thought, which is wrong, in my view, is the following. Current crisis is caused by putting a lot of emphasis on clean energy. It's a clean energy crisis. At the IEA, we have all the numbers. We see very well how the energy prices move. Prices were like this, and 24th of February and later went up. I speak with all the governments in the developing countries, developed countries. None of the government leaders complain me that we have too much clean energy. Nobody says that. If they complain about something, they said, we wished we had more renewables, we had more efficiency policies, we had more electric cars, we had more nuclear power. It is what they complain about. So to say that this crisis is caused by clean energy policy is absolutely wrong. And at the same time, not only factually wrong, if you say this is caused by clean energy policies, you are, directly or indirectly, you are hiding the responsible country for this crisis. So one should be rather careful what one is saying about that. The second point, in my view, again, a claim which is not right. This energy crisis will make reaching our climate targets impossible or very difficult. So our climate targets will be out of reach. I don't agree with this as well. I agree that 1 or 2 years we are going to go difficult times. Yes, we are going to use maybe coal in this country, that country. We may use diesel here. But dear colleagues, let's look at the big picture. Governments, major economies of the world are responding to this energy crisis in the right way. In the United States, there is the Inflation Reduction Act. It's a huge amount of money put on the table, about $400 billion US, providing tax credits, providing a lot of loans, and this $400 billion will trigger substantial amount of additional private investment. In Europe, we have Repower EU, again giving a lot of incentive for clean and secure energy technologies. In Japan, a major policy, a big initiative, green transformation of Japan. These are not only words or strategies, plans, this is cash, money put on the table. China, India raised their ambitions again in the last few months, both in electric cars and also in terms of renewables. I believe this energy crisis may well be a turning point in the history of global energy policy. If you look at the 1970s oil crisis twice, yes, at that time, high oil prices led to inflation, like today, led to recession, like we are going to face, but at the same time, it led to major jumps in the energy policies. I'll give you 2 examples. Car fuel efficiency. Before the crisis in 1970s, an average car needed 18 liters of gasoline for 100 kilometers. 18 liters for 100 kilometers. Right after the crisis, governments responded to that by standards and norms and others. Car manufacturers responded to that. And in a few years, instead of 18 liters, only 11 liters needed for 100 kilometers. Big jump in car fuel efficiency. The second example is on the nuclear power. Most of the nuclear power plants today we are using are built as a response to the high oil price in the 70s. I believe it will be the case also now with these all new policies. Let me give you a couple of examples. In renewables, we expect this year a record 20% increase in new renewable capacity. And some countries are pushing very strongly. I want to give an example of Germany. Major incentives and at the same time shortening the permitting time, much faster, much quicker, much pragmatic. And I hope all the countries will do the same. Electric cars, huge increase. 2019, only 4% of all the cars sold in the world were electric cars. Only 3 years ago, 4%. And this year, it is coming to 15% of all the cars sold in the world are electric. And as a result of these new policies, as a reaction to the energy crisis, Inflation Reduction Act, Repower EU, China, and others, we expect 2030, tomorrow, China, Europe, United States, every second car sold will be an electric car. The top 3 car markets, electric cars are coming stronger. Nuclear power. Some of you may know, 30th of November, there was a major meeting last year. World Nuclear exhibition in Paris here. Before the crisis, before the invasion of Ukraine, in that meeting I said, nuclear may well make a comeback. And after the crisis today, I can tell you now, nuclear is set to make a comeback around the world. And this crisis has accelerated that. So why I am so hopeful that this will be a turning point in the history of energy? Because, dear colleagues, there are three factors pushing it. One, energy security. Two, climate commitments. And three, industrial policy of the governments to be a leader in the clean energy. So these three things coming together, energy security, climate commitments, and industrial policy, this is a very powerful combination. So it is the reason I believe we may well have see a turning point in the history of energy. Now, a couple of points on Europe, and I will finish my words. As I said, 1st of March, we made a 10-point plan, and we suggest these things have to be done in Europe to survive the winter. And some of our demands at that time, when I talked with the ministers in Europe, they found a bit too radical. What was those radical things? One, we said thermostats 2 degrees lower. Germany, Belgium, extension of the lifetime of or postponing of the phase-out of nuclear power plants, or giving extra incentive for heat pumps, cutting the permitting, cutting the red tape for renewables. And today, we are seeing that many governments slowly but surely adopted that, and among others, I am very thankful to Belgium and German governments for their pragmatic approach to the nuclear phase-out policies. And today, in Europe, in terms of natural gas, our gas storages are full, about 90, close to 90%. In the absence of a major negative surprise, I think Europe, in terms of natural gas, can survive this winter with a lot of bruises in our bodies in terms of price, economy, and social issues, but we can go through that. And I am happy to see that happening. There are a few factors help us there. But we may see there may be some negative surprises. So I want to talk about that, to give a heads up. We have seen only a few days ago leakages in Nord Stream pipelines coming to Europe. It is not yet known who made it, who is behind this sabotage. It is still a discussion, more or less. But in my view, I wouldn't think too much who did it, and I wouldn't ask Detective Hercule Poirot to look after that. It's a very obvious thing, in my view, who is behind that issue. We may well see such surprises. There may be some nature-bound surprises. There may be some other geopolitical issues. How is Europe going to cope with that? Plus, in addition to natural gas, we have an electricity issue. There may be electricity shortage. Now here, we have two scenarios. One scenario is the one that I would very much like to see, and I am talking with many, many colleagues to make that happen, which is a scenario of solidarity in Europe. Countries work together, make trade with each other. Electricity, gas, I need this. I'm going to close down my petrochemical installation for 6 months. I will give it to you for your hospital for heating. So this solidarity scenario is the most important one. This is the why EU, European Union, was founded. One of the values of European Union is the solidarity. And I am thankful to the Republic of France and President Macron and his government for pushing the solidarity strongly within Europe. This is very important. Because if we don't show solidarity, then comes to the second scenario. I see a risk in Europe that there is no solidarity and every country will try to look after himself or herself. This will be, in my view, very bad news. Not only for energy, but also for economy, and most importantly, the political weight and the future of European Union. So therefore, I am hopeful that we will, in Europe, choose the scenario of solidarity. And here, I am hopeful and I see a lot of good steps, but still I wanted to bring to everybody's attention that another scenario does exist. So France will play a very important role here, that the solidarity wins, like the Alexander Dumas said, all for one and one for all. I hope France will push it through in Europe. Thank you very much for your attention.